Let's start solving this exercise. The first task was to output your name and your age. Well, we already got the name field, so I'll populate this with max. And then it's also important or required to also add an age field. So let me quickly do this, and I'll set it to 27 since this is my age. Up here, you can then replace your name with double curly braces for the string interpolation syntax and output name here, referring to this name property in the data property. Remember, we don't need this or anything at the beginning, no this, no data, nothing like that. We can directly access name here. In the parentheses, I then want to output the age using the same syntax and referring to age. If I save this by hitting Ctrl Enter, we see max 27 over there. So this is the first task solved. The second task was to output my age multiplied by 3. Well, that's really easy to do. I'll again use double curly braces to enter this interpolation syntax, and then here I refer to my age property, which I already stored due to the first exercise we finished, and I simply multiply it by 3. This is how easy we can output a JS expression or the result of this expression. As you will see when I hit enter, we see 81. Well, I still got some time to get to that point. Here, this is how easy we use a JavaScript expression between the curly braces. The third exercise does something or requires something similar. But here, I don't want to output a simple calculation in here. Instead, I want to call a function. So let's first add a method to the methods array down here, or the methods object, excuse me, and choose any name you like. I'm going to name it random, and this will be a function where I simply return math random. This then allows me up here to call this function, and I've been hitting Ctrl Enter. We see a random number changing each time as I repeatedly, reload this application or reload this page. This is how easy it is. The key thing to take away here is that random, at the function call here, just is another JavaScript expression, like in the second exercise. There we executed the code right between the curly braces. Now we're calling a function, but in both exercises or in both tasks, we actually ran some JavaScript code between the curly braces. Doesn't matter if it is a function call or the code or the calculation itself. Now it's getting interesting. We're leaving the world of this curly brace interpolation syntax, and instead here I now wanna search an image on Google and output it here in my image tag. Well, what could be output? Well, I will be very uncreative and simply search for VueJS on the images. And let's pick one. This looks really awesome, so let's pick this one. I now want to output this image, and of course I could simply add my link here, hit Ctrl Enter, and we almost see it. It's a bit too big. So yeah, that would be the image. Maybe we should add some style here to make this more visible. So let's add a width and a height here. Yeah, that looks better. Of course, the dimensions are now messed up, but at least we see it. But anyways, this is not how I want to add this image. I don't want to paste a link in here. Instead, I want to store it here in a property in my data field, image, which is a string holding this URL. And then up here, I simply want to bind this source attribute. Now we learned that it won't work if I use double curly braces here. This is not how it works. This will resolve to an error. We can try it out. If I add image here, well, we don't see the image clearly because, again, this is not how it works. We can't use the curly brace syntax here in a HTML attribute. We therefore have to bind it using vbind, like this. This now tells VueJS that this source attribute here is no longer directly controlled by HTML, so to say, but instead that now VueJS controls it and sets the value dynamically. This then allows me to pass the source of this dynamic value, which here is the image property between the quotation marks. Important, no curly braces here, since we already are in VueJS world due to this vbind directive here. With that set up, if I now hit Ctrl Enter, We now see the image again, but setting it dynamically through this link down there. For the last exercise, we're kind of doing the same, but now with the value of this input. And again, the first idea might be to use the curly braces here and output name. And that of course won't work. We see curly braces name down there now, because again, this is not how it works. We can't use curly braces here. Instead, we will again use vbind to bind this value attribute using the vbind directive in VueJS to therefore now make this dynamic and allowing us to now simply pass the property name between the quotation marks. Thus, upon hitting Ctrl Enter, we now see my real name down there. These were the first exercises on outputting data. Should have been too complicated, but yet it's very important to get this right, to understand these core mechanics, because we're going to use them throughout this course. And if you get some issues here, now is the time to get 100% clear about what you're doing, because we will need this and everything else kind of builds up on that. With that, let's continue with the next lectures.